Hey everybody, welcome to Spindle and Spoon Homestead. Today I'm doing a kind of a vlog fiber art video, so feel free to craft while you watch or listen. And let me know in the comments what you're working on. I just love to see that. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well while you're here. So the past 2 Saturdays or 2 weekends, I have done festivals where I am a vendor selling my stuff, and I just wanted to chat about that for a little bit. The first one, 2 Saturdays ago, was the Northeast Louisiana Celtic Festival, and it's my favorite local event. It was so much fun. It's like the closest thing we get to a Renaissance fair in my area. And for such a rural area, it's a really pretty decent sized festival, and we get lots of awesome music and dance performers, and we get the Highland Games athletes. They come in. There's like sheepdog trials, or not trials, but like demonstrations, and all kinds of vendors and food trucks, and it's just really fun. My whole family always goes, and I sit in my booth for the most part, but I take time to walk around a little bit too. But the rest of my family just has a total blast. So if you live around here, I highly recommend the Celtic Festival. It's always the first Saturday in October, and yeah, I highly recommend it. And one thing I really like is that as a vendor, if you're vending handmade things, like things that you handmade, the price for a booth is significantly lower than if you're just if you're selling like Celtic themed merchandise or mass produced items. So they get both kinds of vendors, but they don't charge as much for us handmade vendors because it's so hard to make a profit at selling handmade things often. So I really appreciate that they did that. And then the next weekend, this past weekend on Friday and Saturday, was the Louisiana Homesteaders Conference. And this was an event, not really a festival, it was an event, conference thing, put on by the LSU Ag Center. And it was really cool. This is the second year that they've done it, and it's speakers all day long. It starts at noon on Friday, and it goes to sunset, and then the next day from 8 a.m. to sunset, and they have speakers throughout that time on homestead kind of topics or like backyard farmer kind of topics. So there's things about like dairy goats for your home, chickens, raising chickens, different kinds of fruit trees, berries. Like they have speakers about those kind of topics. And it's all geared towards small time homestead kind of people, not like commercial farming. So it's really cool. They also had lots of vendors. They're all like small time businesses like mine, selling things like jams, jellies, pickles, fresh breads and desserts, soaps made from goat milk from their own goats, herbalists, blacksmiths selling knives, that kind of stuff. There was a flint knapper, there was a tanner, there was a guy selling antique cast iron, just a wide variety of vendors that were just like selling the perfect types of products for homestead type people. My kids had an absolute blast again. They had lots of free things for kids to do because it was run through the LSU Ag Center. They had multiple booths run by the Ag Center that were just educational and like little activities for kids and so or adults. I mean, that was really fun. There was even a tomato taste testing booth from the Ag Center. They had developed 3 different varieties of cherry tomatoes, and you had to try all 3 and vote for your first choice and second choice so that they could determine what was the most popular and continue developing that variety. And I just thought that was cool. Also, we got a vendor gift at that festival, which is always super fun. But it was really awesome because the gift was a little jar of homemade apple butter. And when I got it, I was like, this is the best vendor swag ever. Because usually it's like, stickers or pens or a notepad, which is cool, but homemade apple butter, that's amazing. So it was really fun, and I highly recommend it if you live in Louisiana and you're into homesteading. Check out the Homesteaders conference. It was really great. One cool thing, I bought a bunch of stuff, but one of the coolest things that I bought was some comfrey roots. Like, I bought one root and she said I could break it in half and plant both halves. Comfrey is a medicinal herb that a lot of people who raise rabbits use for their rabbits, and you can use it for humans too, but I need to do more research about it. But I planted my roots, and hopefully I will get some plants and be able to use that for my rabbits. I also bought some Roselle hibiscus calyxes that you make tea out of. It's like a little fruit pod thing on this hibiscus plant from the Gulf Coast and the Caribbean. Originally, I think it's from Africa. And it makes this bright red, delicious kind of cranberry flavored tea. And I've already had some and it was so good. And I got some seed pods with them that you don't make the tea out of the seed pods, you remove those. And they're not quite dried, but I'm going to dry them out and see if they're viable, and I'm totally going to plant them. And I hope it's not too cold up here where I live for these amazing plants, but we'll see. What else did I do there? I bought some goat milk soap. I bought some herbs, like some herbal teas. It was just a lot of fun, and it was fun. It was a different sort of customer than the Celtic Festival. The Celtic Festival people a lot of them are into history and crafts, which is super fun when they're like chatting with me about hand spinning. And then at the Homesteaders conference, a lot of the customers were interested, obviously, in homesteading. So instead of the history type conversations, I was having more homestead type conversations. So I actually brought one of my rabbits with me and had him in a little pen in my booth to show people, like, this is an Angora rabbit, and they're all fiber animals actually are dual purpose. You raise them for their fiber and for their meat. So as you're breeding these animals for your homestead, you can save and breed the ones that have the most desirable fiber, that grows the fastest, that doesn't mat as easily or whatever. And the rest of them you put in your freezer to feed your family and keep your, self-sufficiency, whatever, going. And we also talked about rabbit manure for gardens and just all of the homestead things. And so it was really fun to talk about that aspect of what I do versus just the craft aspect or just the history aspect. It was a lot of fun. So I highly recommend that conference. And while I was in my booth for both of these conferences, I had a lot of time to spin, because usually what I do at these sorts of events is I spin in my booth so that people are curious, they can come talk to me, and I can show them what I'm doing. So I want to share all of the yarns that I finished, because I finished a lot of yarn. It's really exciting. I'm like so excited. It's always fun to get new yarn, right? So this yarn is all from 2 braids of Rambouillet that my friend dyed, and it might have been, she's a dyer for Crafty Housewife Yarns, and they have a Braid of the Month club, and I think this might have been for that. I just bought it from her, so it might not have been for that club. It might just have been through her business, which is called the Wren Wife. And either way, it's really pretty. It's like kind of candy colors, and it's Rambouillet, I'm pretty sure, and I spun it super thin so that it would take forever, so I would have a lot to spin at these events and not run out. Because it's always the worst when you run out of fiber at an event and you're like, well, this is my spinning wheel, but I can't show you how it works because I ran out of fiber. Because honestly, some people, like, they don't even realize that you can actually use a spinning wheel. Like, if I'm not sitting down actively using it, it might not even occur to them that I actually use it, you know? Like, their spinning is just so foreign to them that it's like they need to see me using it. And it's really interesting, like, even if I am sitting there using it, they'll like come look at me for it. It's like there's like a lag where they're like processing, oh my gosh, she's making yarn, you know? And it's just, it's funny, but it's really exciting because I can tell that, you know, their mind has been blown and they're learning, which is just great. So this fiber, there was a little bit left over on the bobbin. So I applied it with some white wool and it made this cute pastel sort of look. So I'm going to hold this up a little closer. Got these candy colors and the pastel mini skein. And I think it's a lace weight. I haven't measured it yet. It's lace or fingering. Okay, so that's these yarns. This should be about 8 ounces. I haven't measured the yardage on any of these yet though, but I'm really excited. Don't know what I'm gonna make with them, but whatever. Okay, then the next one that I did, I think it was these. So I spun another 2 bats of mine that had been lurking around for forever and I had forgotten about them, but I cleaned my studio and I found another blue scrap bat and another pink scrap bat. And I already spun a couple other skeins of this same bat, like multiple versions of it, and now I have more. So this one I haven't plied yet. I'm going to ply it with some pink thread, and this one I plied with some blue cotton yarn. So these might look familiar from previous videos. These are probably going to be for tri-loom shawls. This one's mostly Romney, and this one is Merino and Columbia, I think, or Merino Rambouillet with some Corriedale. So that's those. Those were really fast, and this one was fast too. This was a 4-ounce bump of Shetland wool that I bought when I was at the Smoky Mountain Spinnery in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We went there for spring break and we went camping in the Smoky Mountain National Park. It was super fun, and I made sure to visit the Smoky Mountain Spinnery, which is this giant yarn shop with weaving and spinning stuff too. And I bought some farm wool. They had a whole table of farm rovings. I think they were from the same farm, and I think it's from North Carolina. And I bought this very soft gray, charcoal gray Shetland that was a blend of 3 different sheep's fleeces. So it's got some nice different gray tones in it that just blend together really nicely. And I spun it bulky so that I can use it in tri-loom shawls, probably. I haven't washed this one yet, so it'll probably bloom a little bit more. Okay, then I also spun this Cheviot wool, and I haven't washed it yet either. You can tell it's still kind of curly, but it'll relax after I wash it. So this is the same wool that I have in my shop right now, although most of that is naturally dyed to different colors. So this is the natural version, and in my shop I've got these mini braids that are 2 ounces each, and some of it is using this Cheviot wool. This is USA grown Cheviot Sliver, So it does have some VM in it because it's not combed top, it's sliver. But if you spin it fairly thin, that VM really pretty much just falls out effortlessly. I can still see a little piece here and there, but that doesn't bother me. It'll eventually work its way out. As I go with either knitting or weaving, I can just pick out a little piece as I see it, like I'm doing right now. But I'll show it up close in a second. So I have been spinning some of this at festivals and things, and it's pretty enjoyable to spin. It does make a pretty rustic yarn, which I love. It's like a medium softness. It's super squishy. This yarn is very airy. I think that's a nice thing about sliver is it's kind of like roving. It's more chaotic, and like in its organization is more chaotic. And so as you spin it, it's more like a woolen type yarn than a worsted because it's not that super smooth comb top. So I'm really happy with it. I'm probably going to dye half of it some color and weave some kind of checkered cloth for something or other. Not sure. Or maybe a herringbone pattern. I don't know. I love herringbone. So I have no idea how many yards this is or how many ounces, but here's the yarn. And again, this stuff is in my shop. It's pretty inexpensive. It's the naturally dyed USA grown braids, and I'll link it in the description. And the last thing that was finished at these festivals is this woven fabric. My husband actually has been working on this. I started it. I threaded the loom and started the weaving, but he has been working on it at all these festivals and a little bit at home. So this is a herringbone pattern. It has a creamy white wool warp and kind of like a mushroom brown mohair weft. And it's not that soft, but it has a really nice pattern. And it hasn't been washed or folded, so it will kind of shrink up a little bit. And I am going to make a newsboy cap out of this. So I'll show it to you up close. I love the herringbone pattern. It's one of my favorite patterns. It just works so well with wool. And the newsboy caps, I forgot to bring one into the video. My husband loves them. They're like those little, I have one that's half made. They have like the back and then like the front brim thing with like, the brim is right here and this part flops over the brim. Hopefully you know what I mean. But I started making one yesterday out of my friend Anne's hand-woven fabric that she sent to me to sew some things for her. And I'm really excited. I think it's working really well. I am about to do a video. I'll have a whole video about making these hats and just tips for sewing with hand-woven fabric in general, because I know I've heard many times that people are really scared to cut into their hand-woven cloth, and there's a lot of anxiety there, and it's just, I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about it because I don't have that anxiety. I'm just like cutting away. But I hope I can share some tips because I do have some techniques I use to make sure it doesn't all like unravel, and just how to manage it like through the sewing machine and stuff like that. So I hope you will, if that's something that you would like to learn about, I hope you'll join me in that video and that it'll be helpful. And if you have any questions about weaving with hand woven, you could comment in this video, and then as I make this other video about the hats over the next week or something, then I can try and answer those questions. So that is the newsboy caps. One other thing that's going on in my life right now is, you know, that fall garden video that I did back in September? We cleared a bunch of summer stuff and we planted some seeds. I also planted some seeds in little pots and grew seedlings, and they were doing really well. Well, they are all dead now, except for some carrots and radishes. The seedlings that I was growing in pots, I had brought them outside because the weather was absolutely perfect, and over a few days, something ate them all. Like, climbed up on our picnic table where they were sitting and just mowed them. And I'm 100% sure that it's rats or a rat because we see signs of rats. Luckily not in our house yet. I'm really paranoid that they're going to make their way in, but they haven't yet. They're definitely in the garden all over, and it's just, they eat the stuff that I plant in the garden. We planted peas twice, and I saw a grand total of 2 of them come up, and the next day they were gone. So I'm pretty sure that the rats, or it could be squirrels, dig them up and eat the seeds, or just eat the seedlings. So it's really discouraging, and it's hard to want to plant any kind of food because, you know, it's not even going to make it. So, and then recently a local farm that I follow, or a homestead, they shared that they had free kittens, and their cats are Mausers for their farm. And I was like, maybe we should get a couple of kittens from this farm to help with all of these rats. And I've been trapping them. Like, I've caught so many rats in traps over the last year or so that this has been a problem. I've caught, and like, so many. It's just the worst. And it seems like no matter how many I catch, they're just coming back all the time. And it's because there's free food, you know? There's free food. There's also acorns everywhere, and they love to eat acorns. I've seen the acorn shells in like their little nests that I've found. So, yeah, I think we might get a couple kittens, but I'm just not sure I want to do that because I'm usually really cautious with getting animals because I kind of tend to get overwhelmed, you know, by getting too many exciting things going. And with cats, there's lots of things to worry about. Like, I have to do all of those vet appointments, getting them spayed or neutered and all their shots and their flea medicine because I want to treat them right and I don't want to have a bunch of kittens everywhere. So there's all of that, and financially that could be a little tricky, at least right now. And also there's my dog who has never particularly been interested in attacking cats, but he's never had that many opportunities. He does attack squirrels and chickens though, so that makes me nervous too, and I just don't know how he would react. And then I also think I would want them to be outdoor cats, but we have a doggy door. So how would I even keep them from coming in? I'd have to close the doggy door, but that would make our dog really sad. He's always much happier and better behaved when the doggy door is open and he can go run around outside anytime he wants and come inside anytime he wants. So it's a lot to think about, and I just don't know. And there's also the question of, will these cats even try to catch the rats? We don't know. Like, it's a total gamble. I do think it's a good sign that their parents catch things for the farm that they're from. But still, you never know. So that's a question that I'm thinking about, and I just wanted to share in this vlog today. And the other one is that 2 weeks ago or so I had 18 chickens, and today I have 8 chickens. And there has been a raccoon that has developed a taste for our chickens. And I'm kind of just a little bit beating myself up for how long it's taken me to solve this mystery, because at first I thought it might be a hawk because I thought they were disappearing during the day. But as I'm looking back, I can see that no, it wasn't during the day. I just wasn't really paying attention very well. And just one by one, like a couple or 1 or 2 or 3 would be gone overnight. And a couple times They were even like near the coop and I could see them, the remains. And so finally I've been locking the chickens up really well and letting Falcor prowl around at night because he barks at everything and he'll scare the raccoon away. But he comes in and sleeps with us when we go to bed, so he's not there all night long. And the first night I locked them up, which we do every night, but just making sure I do it like right at sunset and all that. The raccoon still found a way in, not to the coop, but into underneath, and could reach through the wire floor and grab a chicken and just pull its head off. Sorry, that's really gruesome, but that's homestead life. So he even got one when I was trying to be careful, and it's so annoying. But I blocked up that hole, and so far it's been a few nights and nothing has happened. And I think our next step that we're going to do is that next time we go to Tractor Supply this week, probably, we're going to buy a live raccoon trap and see if we can trap this raccoon and relocate it. So that's our next plan. But man, it's just devastating. Like, I had 18 chickens and I was going to have all these eggs to eat and sell, and now I'm not even getting one egg per day because it's getting towards winter, and some of the hens that are there are kind of older and a couple aren't even laying yet, so it's kind of a bummer. But in the spring, we'll try and start over again, I guess, or get a few chicks or maybe some eggs, because I do have an incubator now, so that could be fun to get some fertile eggs. But yeah, that's discouraging. And I guess that's the note I'm going to end on, because I can't think of anything else. That's kind of a downer, but I am hopeful that we can solve this problem. And I'm also really excited about all of my new yarn. It's like going to a yarn festival and getting a whole yarn haul, but I spun it all myself over the last mostly the last 2 weeks, but this colorful stuff I had started several months ago. But anyway, so that's really exciting. And the Newsboy caps, that's exciting too. So on that note, thank you so much for joining me in my long ramble about spinning and homesteading and festivals. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to share if you're working on a craft. Tell me what you're working on in the comments. It's just fun to hear. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me with my goals for this channel. And check out my website, my blog, spindleandspoonhomestead.com. I've got recipes and articles, and there's also a link to my shop, so you can buy fiber art supplies and some handmade gifts. So thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you later.